I found out I was apparently tyrannical before I even finished my first cup of coffee. Nothing like being accused of oppressing a mountain for blocking your own driveway. That's how my morning started. Certified letter in one hand, coffee in the other, and some HOA up the ridge telling me I had 10 days to tear down the gate I built with my own two hands. 10 days. Underlined. Like I was slow or something. Now I've dealt with fugitives, armed suspects, cartel runners. But let me tell you, nothing prepares you for a homeowners association with too much time in a Facebook group. See, I live out in the Wyoming mountains, 6 acres of pine frost and peace. My driveway snakes half a mile down to State Highway 12. It's private. Always has been. I poured the footings myself, welded the steel posts, installed a plate recognition camera, and locked that gate for one reason: I don't like strangers treating my land like a shortcut. So when that letter showed up from Cedar Ridge Heights HOA claiming my driveway was a historic access road, I actually laughed. Historic. The only thing historic about that road is the moose that wander across it. But here's the thing about entitlement: it doesn't laugh. It escalates. 3 days after we sent a polite but firm response deed, attached easement language highlighted my security app pinged. I was fixing fence wire in the north pasture when I pulled up the feed. There she was. Cream-colored parka, helmet hair that didn't move in the wind, mid-50s chin lifted like she'd been appointed sheriff of other people's property. Karen Winslow. She's pointing at my gate while some poor UPS driver stands there awkward as a middle school dance, and I hear her say clear as day through the mic, "We should just cut the hinges. That thing doesn't belong here." Another guy, HOA logo stitched proud across his vest, laughs and says, "We could have it down in an hour." I saved that clip like it was gold, because when people start talking about cutting your gate, they've already convinced themselves they're right. And I've learned one thing in my life: when someone believes they're entitled, they'll justify just about anything. The sabotage started small. One night, 2 a.m., the camera feed goes static. No deer does that. I roll down on the ATV boot's half-laced flashlight cutting through the dark, and there it is. Power cable cleanly severed. Heavy chain thrown over the sensor arm motor grinding against it like it's trying to breathe. Fresh ATV tire tracks leading uphill towards Cedar Ridge. Deputy Markham came out that morning, crouched in the frost, studied the cuts. "Whoever did this knew what they were doing," he muttered. "Oh, I knew that too. So I upgraded everything. Solar backups, LTE uplinks, trail cams hidden in the tree line. You move near that gate, now you're on camera from 3 angles and probably a satellite." And then the rumors started. Apparently I was blocking ambulances. Apparently I was endangering children. Apparently my gate was a public menace. Funny thing about lies, they crumble when you ask for paperwork. I drove into town, handed the fire captain a key and code. Same with EMS. Both signed statements: unrestricted access, no obstruction. I posted the letters online. Didn't even name names. Karen responded that night by standing outside my gate filming it like she was documenting a crime scene. She looked up at the camera before she left. She smiled. That's when I knew this wasn't about a road. It was about control. Then came the bold move. Saturday morning, clear sky, cold air that smells like pine and steel. I'm headed to the barn when the alert hits. 4 men in neon vests around my gate. Tools out. One kneeling with an angle grinder. Sparks testing the steel like they're sampling it. Front and center Karen. Folder tucked under her arm like she's about to cut a ribbon. The grinder screams. I tear down that driveway on the ATV, gravel spraying. "Shut it down," I bark. Karen doesn't flinch. "You're unlawfully blocking established access," she says, smiling tight. "Show me a court order," I tell her, "or step away from my gate." She taps her folder. "You'll see it in court." That's when the sheriff's SUV rolls up. Markham steps out, sunglasses on, calm as winter. He inspects the gouge in the steel, looks at the tools, looks at Karen. HOA bylaws don't override county records, he says. The crew backs off quick. Nobody signs up for felony trespass on a Saturday. But Karen, She stalks off like this is intermission. 4 days later, her attorney files a complaint. Attached a 1978 easement map, county seal, yellowed edges, dashed line right through my driveway. At first glance, it looked official. At second glance, it smelled wrong. Wrong clerk name, wrong font, wrong ink color. I called Eric. Within hours, we had a surveyor and a county records historian at my kitchen table, coffee mugs holding down the fake map while they dissected it. "Seal's wrong," Jacobs mutters. "Coordinates don't match any official survey," Collins says. Eric just smiles. "If you're going to fake a county document, maybe don't use a clerk who wasn't even in office that year." That was the twist. This wasn't neighborhood pettiness. It was fraud. We filed counterclaims, trespass, property damage, forgery, conspiracy. Then Karen escalated again. Midnight. Landline rings. "Crowd at your gate," Markham says. I roll down and the snow's glowing orange. Dozen people waving signs. "End the tyranny." Road flares hissing, smoke curling into the winter air. Karen's there with a bullhorn. "We're on public land," she shouts. Then I see a younger guy slip over the fence quick like he's practiced. He bolts for the locking mechanism. Before he gets 3 steps, cruiser headlights sweep in. Deputies move fast, face in the snow, hands cuffed. Karen gets cited for violating the court order. 3 arrested that night. The flares burn out slow in the snow, leaving black scars on white ground. That was their last stand. Court day came packed. Small town. People love a reckoning. Karen showed up in a navy blazer, hair perfect like this was a fundraiser. Eric and I carried binders thick enough to anchor a boat. The HOA's lawyer held up that fake map like it was the 10 Commandments. Eric stood. "Before this exhibit is admitted, Your Honor, we have expert testimony. It's fraudulent. Seal wrong, ink wrong, clerk wrong, coordinates wrong." Then the real 1978 clerk's affidavit dropped like a hammer. She'd never signed it. The courtroom went quiet, and then came the paper trail. HOA funds paying a realtor commissioning a mapping specialist out of state, payment approved by Karen Winslow. The look on her face shifted for the first time. Not confident, cornered. Judge dismissed their complaint with prejudice, upheld my counterclaims, ordered $1.1 million in damages, then criminal sentencing. 8 years, no parole for 5. When the gavel came down, it sounded heavier than wood should. Karen was let out in cuffs, hair slightly out of place for once. And here's the thing. It was never about a road. It was about what happens when someone confuses authority with ownership, when they believe enough pressure makes something yours. I've spent my life chasing people who thought the rules didn't apply to them. Sometimes they carried guns. Sometimes they carried clipboards. Doesn't matter. The pattern's the same. You push, you bluff, you intimidate. And eventually you cross a line. And here's the quiet lesson I learned watching all this unfold. Justice isn't loud at first. It's paperwork. It's patience. It's documentation. It's letting people hang themselves with their own certainty. You don't win by yelling louder. You win by knowing the ground you stand on. That evening back at the ranch, I bolted a new sign to the gate. Private road entry by court order only. Snow caught the floodlights just right. The steel gleamed. Cameras humming steady. For the first time in months, the mountain felt quiet again. No flares, no grinders, no helmet hair in a cream parka, just wind in the pines, and my road mine by deed, by law, and now by judgment. So here's the question I'll leave you with. At what point does a community cross the line from advocating for its rights to manufacturing them? And if someone believes they're fighting for the greater good, does that excuse the lie that gets them there? I'm curious what you think. Have you ever dealt with someone who tried to bully their way into control? Maybe not a gate, maybe something else? Where do you draw the line between standing your ground and escalating a fight? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read them all. Because out here in the mountains, and maybe everywhere, the real fight isn't over land. It's over truth.